guys, I'm Trina and today I am reviewing the Lunar Chronicles series by Marissa Meyer. The four main books in order are Cinder, Scarlet, Cress, and finally Winter. And there is a prequel book called Fairest which centers on this series' villain, Queen Lavanna. This is going to be a spoiler-free review, but if you have read the series and you want to hear more of my thoughts, we can definitely discuss spoilers down in the comments. I want to start out by saying that I love this series. This is one of my all-time favorite series, so that's the kind of review you're getting. This is a gush, this is definitely a fangirl review. I'm going to tell you the summary, I'll tell you what I loved about the series and what I didn't like so much about the series, and I will discuss at what point you should read Fairest and if I thought it was necessary or not. And I'll end the video by letting you know who I recommend this series to. So to summarize the Lunar Chronicles series, this is a futuristic science fiction series of fairy tale retellings. Cinder is fairly obviously a retelling of Cinderella. Cinder is a cyborg, and cyborgs are really feared in this culture. They are basically discriminated against pretty heavily. So Cinder is facing a lot of discrimination in her life, and her adoptive family doesn't like her either. She's a really skilled mechanic though, so she runs a booth in the city marketplace. The Prince of New Beijing comes to her booth and needs her to fix his android, and that kind of sets everything into motion. But the overarching plot of the whole series is that we've got all these different countries and societies on Earth, and there's also a kingdom on the moon. And this lunar kingdom, their queen, Queen Lavanna, wants to get into a position of power on Earth. She's got these really weird, special mental powers that can basically control everybody, and so Lavanna is a threat, and she basically is trying to wiggle her way into an engagement and a marriage with Prince Kai. And every main character in each of these books plays some part in this overarching story, and each book does follow that new main character, but we still get the perspectives from every character we had before added in too. So even though the next books are not Cinder-centric, Cinder is still the main character throughout the entire series. So now I'm going to tell you basically what I liked and what I didn't like about this series, and in short, I basically liked pretty much everything, so there's not much to talk about. I think that this series has wonderful characters. There are 8 or 9 main characters and every single one of them is unique. I love the way that they interact with each other. I love the lengths that they go to help each other. It's a really strong group of friends and they're just a lot of fun. I definitely love the characters in this series. I also really love the setting, this whole futuristic setting. Book 1 is set in China, book 2 is set in France, book 3 is largely set in Africa, and the 4th book is mostly set on the moon. I also really loved the fairy tale aspect to this series, and I want to talk a little bit about this fairy tale aspect. These books are fairly similar to the tales that they were based on, and I feel like they can be that similar because the world and the setting is so different, and the ways in which they are tied together and the overall thing that they are trying to achieve, it's all so different. It doesn't feel like it's just recycled. It does feel very new because of that interesting setting. To that point, there's a bit of predictability to the plot of some of these books. Each of the books kind of has a major plot point, and you can kind of see where things are going, I think, fairly early on. The complaint that I hear the most often is that it is predictable. There is a big twist, especially in book 1, and I think everybody saw it coming. I don't know if she meant it to be a shock or if she meant it to be kind of transparent, but it doesn't make the story any less enjoyable. Even though you know where things were going, it doesn't make it any less enjoyable at all. So I do want to talk about the things I didn't like so much in this series, and it's definitely not that I didn't like the series overall. It didn't lower my opinion of the series, but in Winter there were a couple of things that just didn't really work for me, and I think that that's largely because this is the finale, and I think that I am a pretty demanding reader when it comes to finales. I want it to feel real, and I want it to feel deserved. So in Winter I had 2 main issues. Number 1, I felt like the lunar city felt like a recycled Panem from the Hunger Games. I felt like I was reliving Mockingjay, basically. There are these outlying colonies that basically felt like the districts, even though there were more of them, but each colony was responsible for a different part of agriculture or power or lumber, and they would all send their materials to the lunar capital. That sounds very much like the districts in Panem, as well as the people that live in the lunar capital dress in these crazy, outrageous ways, which sounds a lot like the capital citizens of Panem. There's even a scene where somebody is taken captive and the queen uses that character in propaganda that is spread throughout the entire city. Then there are characters in this resistance that are also sending out their own propaganda videos, which felt so much like those scenes in Mockingjay where District 13 has Katniss sending out propos and President Snow has Peeta sending out propos of his own. And I just really felt a bit too many similarities. I can definitely see how it fits with the type of kingdom that Luna was. I don't think it was out of place. Just as a reader, I definitely felt like I had read that before and it was kind of bugging me a little bit. The other complaint that I had about Winter is that we have so many characters at this point. We follow the points of views of 10 to 11 different characters. Cinder being our main character, she basically had to flip a switch in her character development. She went from being kind of a timid character to all of a sudden running in guns blazing, and I didn't see her develop to that point of kind of coming into her own. So I do think that it was a little bit like rushed and convenient at the end there. It came about in the way that it needed to come about, but I didn't get to see her get there. And that I think is just a limitation of how many points of view that we were trying to cover. I would not want to cut out any of the points of view because I love all these characters and I loved their views. But at the same time, it did really limit us getting to see Cinder come into her own. Even though I did have a couple of issues or problems, it didn't take away from my overall enjoyment of the series. I still really love this series and I really love the characters, and I knew that that ending was how it was going to have to end. We had to get to that point. So it's not a big complaint, it's just like me nitpicking. So let me talk about Fairest now. Fairest is a prequel novel. It's about 200 or so pages long, and although the events in this book take place before the rest of the series started, I don't think you should read this before you start the series if you haven't started the series yet. This revolves around Queen Lavanna's backstory, who she is, where she came from, her family ties. And I don't think you're fully going to understand all of that, and plus it's going to spoil a few things that happen in books 1 and 2, but I think the perfect place to read this book is between books 3 and 4. So after you read Crest, maybe pick this one up. And as far as if I think this is essential to the story, personally I did find it very essential to the story because there are a lot of complicated family relationships in this Moon Kingdom, and the main books, they kind of tell you like what's going on, but you don't see the full side of that, and I kind of found myself a little bit confused. I definitely think that Fairest explains it all. It makes it all make sense. I could see how all these puzzle pieces fit together, so I definitely would recommend reading Fairest. There are several novellas within the series, and I have read 3 of them. I think 3 are the only ones that are publicly out right now. I actually think they are some of the best novellas in a series that I have read. I don't like novellas, but I really like these. The ones that I have read are called Glitches, which is a prequel of Cinder's story and how she and Aiko kind of became friends. And the next one is called The Queen's Army, which is a prequel to Scarlet. I read it before I read Scarlet. I think you can read it before or after Scarlet, but it did kind of make a few things a bit more obvious. And the other novella that I've read is called The Little Android, which is not related to these characters or this story at all. I don't think we ever see those characters again, but it is a Little Mermaid retelling and I loved it. It was so cute as its own little short story. There's also going to be a whole bind up of these novellas plus a bonus short story and other bonus content coming out this February. It's called Stars Above, so it's not out yet, so of course I haven't read it, but my opinion is I've read other bind ups like this. If you are a fan of this series, if you like these books, I think it's going to be definitely one not to miss. If you haven't read this series yet, I would recommend it to anyone who likes YA science fiction or fairy tale retellings or lots of cast of characters or strong friendships. There's also a really heavy dose of romance in all of these books. Each main character does have a love interest. As many retellings as we have on the market these days, I don't feel like this series feels like anything else that's out there. So those are my thoughts on the Lunar Chronicles series by Marissa Meyer. If there's anything that I didn't cover, or if you have any additional questions about these books, please let me know down in the comments and I will reply to you there. If you have anything else you want to discuss with me more in depth, any spoilers, we can talk about that in the comments too. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you in the comments. Bye!